Well, hello out there in Flosstube land. Today is September 7th, 2023, and I am here with my Flosstube episode number 18, and it's all about Sampler September, and can you believe it? It's only been 2 months since my last Flosstube, and so I promised you in my last one that it wouldn't be 6 months like last time, and I'm so happy I was able to keep that promise. And so let's dive right into samplers, and I'm showing you my red samplers for my heritage wall first because I got 2 of them back from the framers. So this one, oh, let me take the, see how I've got my little library cards in the back here. So this one I just got back from Jamie, and this is for my great-grandma Sarah Jane Butterfield Crane, 1872, and this is the Quaker Samplings 2 with my needle, and of course I've talked with my needle, and with, did I read that right? Is it with my needle or with thy needle? I can't remember, but I think it's with my needle because that's what I have written down here. But anywho, sorry about that. I've shown you these before all through my last floss tubes, but I always have to show them to you when I get them back from the framers. And so I'm getting different frames in all of these, but the same color, just kind of darker frames. So they kind of look cohesive on the wall. And, I'm using different linens and different red threads, from DMCs to silks to, all different overdyes and everything in these. And so I just wanted to show you that one and show you how happy I am with that. So got that one back, and here's this one you want to, and then here's the next one I got back. I'm just going to pull that up just a little bit so that you can kind of see the stitching. And this is for my great-grandma Martha Elizabeth Bolden Butterfield. And she was born in Harriman in 1888, and I stitched this on 36 count Thornfield by Needle and Flax. And I used the Schwarzschild silk in 2916. And I can't remember if I told you the thread that I used in that last one, but Cass had me that, and let me hand that back to me. Oh yeah, this is the one that I used, the Cottage Garden threads in Red Carnation, and I loved the variegation in that. And this is on the Dunes at Dusk by Legacy Fiber Arts linens. So these are the 2 that I just picked up. So these are my 2 of my great-grandmas. I have all of my great-grandmas done, and I've shown you these before, but I just pulled them in just to show you. This is the first one that I did for my great-grandma Salzetti, and I did this on Affogato by Fibers on a Whim, 36 count, and I used the 945 silk in this. And then this one right here is for my other great-grandma Elvira Lillian Bigelow Ewell, 1877. And in hers, let me just set these, I don't know if you can see them both, but I'll set them here for a minute while I'm reading. This one is on a 36 count Vintage Maple Sugar by Lakeside Linens, and I use Schoolhouse Red Gloriana silks with that one. So I'm super excited to have these, back in all together, these 4, and I can put them on my wall, and so that I can add my 2 other ones. And I've got my other samplers, these 2 that I showed you last time that I finished. Here, Cass, do you want to stack those? So this one is going to the framers. This is, now I have my great-grandpa's finished because I did these all together in one, remember, and I showed you last time. So I have all 4 of my great-grandpas here. And what I did with that is just started with the longest name, and then the next longest name, and then the next one, and the next one, and I centered those, and then I just kind of filled in a little bit of the sides, just here and there. I didn't want them to, you know, exactly stitch evenly on the corners. That didn't matter to me. This is nice and even here. And so this is a little Quaker-esque by Blue Ribbon Designs, and this is on 36 count Boston Tea Party, and that's also by Legacy Fiber Arts Linens. And you know, I just love their linens. I've said that before. And this is French Blue Range NPI Silk number 746. Okay, so that's going to be going to Jamie next week. I've got other stuff to show you at the end here that I'm going to take to the framers too. So there's that one. Well, in fact, let me just move this over here and then I'll stack it back on. Okay, and then I showed you this one last time too for my grandma crane, and this is the Americana Red Sampler by October House, and this is on 36 count Salted Caramel, and that is by number 12 Stitch Company. And I can't remember what I stitched this with, and I don't know why I didn't write this down, but I'm sure I've told you. In fact, I need to make a note on here that I need to write it on my library card. I don't know why I didn't put that red down, but you know, I've got it in the chart. But I know I told you last time because I had the chart with me. So anyway, so these two are going. So that means for, as far as my red sampler for my heritage wall, I have my great grandmother's done. I have this grandmother done, my mom's mom. She's my quilting grandma, the one I grew up next door to. And then I've got my, let me put this back up here. I want to keep them nice and pressed for the framers, so I don't want to mix those up. And then I just file my library cards, and then I put them back onto the frame when I get them back. Okay, can you see that whole thing, sis? What I got going on there? Okay, so this is what I'm doing for my grandpa crane, and this is the Quaker Village Sampler by Happy Mood Point, and this is stitched on 36 count Cafe au Lait by Fiber on a Whim, and I'm using the Classic Color Works Belsois and Chester's Blue. Isn't that pretty? And that, and so that's my progress. So I did make, I think I had this done. I can't remember if I had this done last time. I know I had this and all of this, but I think this is my progress that I made on it. And so then after I finish oh, I forgot to bring my other grandma's in. That's finished. I showed that to you already. My Grandma Yule's. I'll grab that for the next segment when I clear off my desk. But this is the progress that I'm making on my mom's. And this is by Marjorie Massey, the Sampler Folk Traditional. And I'm using this floss right here, this silk in 946 in the Soige silk. And this is stitched on 36 count Everything Else by Mystic Fabrics. And I made quite a bit of progress on this one. And I don't know why I didn't bring the other one in here, but I thought I had them all pressed and ready to go to the framers, but I'll bring that one in the next segment and show you. So that's all my samplers for my heritage wall. And so let me clear this off and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and I found it. I put it on, I had it pressed on another design board. So I feel a little bit discombobulated because it wasn't in the right stack. So anyway, so this is the one. So, you know, I have all of my great grandmas done now, and I have both of my grandmas done. And so this is for Ida Marie Salzetti Yule. I showed you this last time. I'm taking this to the framers, and this linen is from the Farm Girl Dry Goods, you know, Michelle. And this is 36 count, and this is her number 2 linen. And I use Schoolhouse red Gloriana silks for that. Okay, so this is my crochet grandma. You know, I said the other one is my quilting grandma. And my Grandma Crane. And I also looked at my chart to make sure I could tell you the thread. And it's, I added that here. It's the Gloriana silk in pomegranate. Okay. So now I have those all ready, and I'm working on my mom's next, which I showed you, right? That one there. And as soon as I have my mom's finished, then I'll work on one for me, which I have a few charts that I'm trying to choose, and I'll show you those on my next floss tube. And hopefully in my next one, I'll have my mom's done, and I will be, you know, thinking about starting mine. And so now I have all my great-grandpas done, going to the framers, and then I just have to work on my Grandpa Crane's. And as soon as his is done, then I'll work on my Grandpa Yule's, and then I'll move next to my dad. Okay? All right, so that takes care of my progress on my heritage wall. And so what I wanted to show you was something that I don't think I ever showed you that came back from the framers. And I love this sampler. This is, let me grab the card. This is the Dutch Hornbook sampler, okay? And it's by Bright Needle. And, you know, I showed you this last year when I started it, or, well, shouldn't say last year, I started it in 21. And so this is stitched on 36 count straw flower by Lakeside Linens. And this is the one, if you remember right, that I, take these little goodies out, that I used and did a conversion using the anchor spools because they were just brand new, and I thought it would be fun to pull and do some colors with that. And so I wanted to show you this already framed. It's hanging in my bedroom. I have a big wall in my bedroom where I have a bunch of light colored frames in there on my beadboard wall. And so that's really fun. And I just love this sampler. And because it's Sampler September, I wanted to show you this. Make sure I showed that to you. All right. And so let's talk about, for a minute, remember this bag? Okay. In this bag, I had 6 patterns in my last floss tube that I showed you. Oh, I've got something else in here. You know, I got a lot to show you. I have a lot to show you. So, I had pulled some things, and I wanted your vote on when I finished a couple of my finishes that I was going for. I wanted your vote, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but let's at least... So this is Life on Sampler Hill. Okay, so that, all of them got a lot of votes. And this is Channing Street. I'm still going to stitch all of these, even though they didn't win top, but all of them got a ton of votes, and I appreciate that so much. And this one got a lot of votes too, this Busy Bee from Lila's Studio. So I will be stitching this, but just not yet in the order, you know, that I told you, because I told you that I would pick one. Oh, I'll show you that in a minute. One I've added for when I get another finish for my bee wall. Okay, so let me show you that I haven't started the one that won yet because I want to do a SAL, and so I'll talk about those after. But I did start and finish one that didn't win, but it was close. I think it was actually in 3rd place, because when I went to Christie's, let's just put that there so I can set that there so I don't forget to show you. When I went to Christie's, in July, I told you I was going there for a week. And when I went there in July, she had commented that she wanted the little deeds, that she really wanted to do the little deeds. And so I said, well, that was before even the voting was finished or anything. And I said, well, let's just start that. No matter what, let's just start it together and stitch it together when I come to your house. And she said, that's a great plan. And so that's what I did. It's a small stitch. I already had it kitted, and so I went ahead and I was able to finish it up there. All right, let me pull everything together here. So this is it right here. This is what I'm kept my threads in. This is the bag. This is a Jane Austen fabric. And Christy made me this bag. And so this is by the Scarlet House. This is the Little Deed Sampler. And I stitched it on 36 count tephra by Cedar River Designs. And isn't that a beautiful, beautiful linen? And I stitched it with some of the called for threads and some for my stash. So let me pull these out and I'll show you what I used, like what the called for was. I like to keep my threads in a separate little bag just to kind of keep them protected. All right, so what have I got here? So here's the called for right here. And so instead of Blackbird, I used the Classic Colorworks Blackbird. I used Weeks Dye Works Molasses for that. And instead of Classic Colorworks Polywog, I used Weeks Dye Work Oscar. Everything else, I did the same. And then instead of Snowball Classic Colorworks, I used Weeks Dye Work Grits. And so that is my substitutions for that. And so I wanted to show you this finish because I'll be taking it to the framers too. I have a lot to take to the framers. Like I say, I might have to divide it up a little bit. But anyway, so I stitched that with Christy, and that was really fun. And so I skipped ahead on that one. And then we started another one together, one we already had planned to start together. And that's this one right here. That one lives in this little bag here. And let me take out the information. That's what I keep my threads in. This is by With Thy Needle and Thread, Be Happy, Humble, and Kind. And we had planned to start this one together. And so we kind of ended up doing two. And so this is what my threads live in right here in this smaller bag. These are for my zippy bag panels. Here's my flosses right there. And once again, this is Be Happy, Humble, and Kind. And this is what I have finished on it so far. And I am stitching it on a 36 count tea set, which is a Wabi Sabi linen, you know, by the Kitten Stitcher. And I'm stitching this with overdyed threads from my stash. Now, let me see. I think I'm using a lot of the called for. Let me look on my chart and see what I did differently. I'm using a lot of the called for. I don't know if I should say a lot, but I started out that way. And then you know how when you choose your linen, how sometimes you have to change the threads to make sure they show up correctly. And so that's what I did for this. So let me see if I can make sense of this. Let me just show you the colors that I'm using, and then I'll kind of show you a picture of my chart, and hopefully we can make sense of that. So this is Poblano Pepper by Classic Colorworks. And I know that that is for this little sugar bowl here. I just love how this little house is in there. I kept calling it a gravy boat, a sugar bowl, a teacup. Then I realized, okay, it's got two handles on it. That typically is a sugar bowl, but it just could be an urn or a planter, but I kind of like it as a sugar bowl. So that's Poblano Pepper. And then I'm using for my two blues, besides that one, that's kind of a bluey greeny, the Poblano Peppers, I'm using Blue Corn and Fathom. Okay, so that's the two blues, and you can see that, or maybe this is the third one, I don't know, but you can see the little birds are done in that. And then I'm using Toffee for the bees. I'm using hazelnut. I believe that that's what it's called for. I think toffee and hazelnut are both called for. I'm going to put this. Cass, tell me if you can see this, if it's clear or fuzzy. Can you see the whole thing so they can kind of see my writing? Mm-hmm. Maybe figure out what I've done here, but at least I'll show you all the colors so you know what I'm talking about. So hazelnut is in the feet. Palomino, I don't know if I've used that yet. I may have used it in here for the tree trunks. I'm using wood trail. I'm using wood rose. And I'm using peach. And now I'm sure that those are, where's the picture of this? Like the peach is for their skin tone. And the wood rose, I'm not sure where that comes in actually, but I'm sure that I pulled it on here because that's what's called for. And then I've got grits. You know, I love grits because it just is not bright white, but it's a little bit lighter so that it shows up on this linen very nicely. And I used that for the bee wings, I know that. And then I'm using eggshell for this right here. And then I've got sage and endive for my greens. Okay, so those are the colors. And so that's a whip that I've got going on with that. All living in that bag. And then this one goes to the framers. So I want to keep that nice and pressed. And then I'll show you this that I added to my bag as soon as I finish something for my bee wall. Another for my bee wall. I pulled this out because I've had this pulled out for a long time. This is my little charm that I designed after my mom. So this is like my mom with me when I hang her on this bag. I've had this for a long time. I love Kathy Barrett designs. And I have decided to start this for my bee wall. Okay, this is Miss Mary Hadley. This is what I'm keeping my threads in. I'm going to stitch her on All the Things, 36 count by Mystic Fabrics. And I'm going to stitch with my conversions of NPI silks. So what I've done first is, let me pull this out. And I don't know if I'm going to do Miss Mary Hadley or put another name and another address in here. But, you know, my one grandma, well, I think my great-grandma, both, actually 3 of them were beekeepers. And so I may put one of theirs in there, but I may look at, you know, my husband's genealogy. We have all of those, we have a lot of the stories from our ancestors and see who's a beekeeper in his side of the family. And I may put one of her names. So I've pulled all these silks that were called for from the chart. And so I'll probably use a lot of them, but I'm thinking this rust colored more. I think I would like a little bit more red or a berry red. So I might pull from my NPI stash, you know, some, but everything else I'll probably use the same, but I might, you know, probably just, like I say, do kind of like a red and a light red kind of for that. So I'll be starting that as soon as I finish something else for my bee wall. And so if anybody wants to stitch that with me, that's what I'm going to be doing. So that's why I have that in that bag as kitted and ready to go when I'm ready for a start. But I do have other starts I'm going to talk about and show you. But first, I want to show you some finishes that are ready to go to the framers. Now, I've shown you this one on Instagram. And this was my first finish that I did when we talked about, you know, voting the patterns for that. And so that's my floral motif sampler. And so I told you all about that, showed you that. That's on Instagram, but I talked all about it on my last Flosstube too. So all the information is there. But these were all pressed and ready to go to the framers, but I just thought I'd pull them in and show them to you. This is Every Opening Flower. I finished that one. This is going to be for my bee wall because it's got a beehive on it. Okay, and I talked about that all in the last floss tube. And then got that all finished, ready to go to the framers. I don't think I can take all of these to the framers in one day, because I don't know if I can handle that many decisions, right? So I may just next week take all of my red samplers and my blue samplers in for my heritage wall, make those decisions, and then, you know, go in the next week and take these other ones in, because I've got a lot more even than this ready to go to the framers. It's been a while since I've gone. And so this is my third finish. And so that's why I felt like I could have 3 stars. Okay, can you see the bottom and the sides and all of that? Mm-hmm. So, you know, I've been stitching on this for a long time, so I was super excited to finish this. And this is Land That I Love by Teresa Kogut. And I love it. This is Stitch That I Love, Land That I Love. And so happy to get that one finished and ready to go to the framer. So I will have it back for, you know, put it in my family room and, you know, for next July or summertime. And so those are the 3 finishes that I did out of this bag right here. And then let's talk about, I'm going to clear this off. I'll come back and grab my other starts and talk about the 2 that won. One just didn't win, 2 did, and I'll explain why. I'll be right back. All right, let's talk about my Sabbath stitch and my Sabbath stitching. I brought this in to show you this whip. And of course, this is Consider the Lilies. And I'm almost finished. Consider the Lilies has been living in this bag right here. And I've been using these threads, and I've talked about all of the changes and everything that I made in the very beginning. But one of the things I didn't think that I talked about is that I decided to do this in blue instead of the color, let me see, I can't remember what Beth called for. Oh, it was a green. Okay, so this is Consider Lilies by Heartstring Samplery. I think it was a green, and I don't know, I just kept looking at these colors and some of the blues that I brought in that I loved, and I just decided to do these words in Brethren Blue. Okay. They would have looked nice in blue corn as well, but I just decided. So I did that. I haven't filled in the date yet, but I will be. That's the last thing I'll be putting in. And I think, let's see, did Beth put her initials in here? Oh yeah, it went in there. Your initials and the date goes there. Yeah, so I was gonna say I'll find a place for my initials somewhere. So this is my Sabbath stitch. And what I've been doing since, you know, I finished all the border and I finished this all first, and then I did this center thing. And what I've been doing now is doing both of them. As you can kind of see, they're mirror images, you know, different colors of threads here and there, but they're the same motifs. And so I'm going to be, that's what I've been doing, is just like, for instance, I did this star and then this star, this tree, then this tree, then this bird, you know, I've just been doing them both instead of finishing one section. And so I have left to do, I just did the berry bowl right there. And so now I've got just these few right here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little motifs besides the peacock, and then I'm going to do the peacocks last. I don't know why, but I just want to do those last. So I'm excited about that. Now, the reason I'm showing this to you right now is because I got as many votes for this, if almost as many, as to start the Lord's Prayer. And everybody suggested that I should start the Lord's Prayer. Is that it right there? I think it's in this bag, right after I finish this one. So for everything that was in this bag, remember the Lord's Prayer was one of them that I asked you to vote on. And so I got it ready and thought, well, when I finish that, then I will be starting the Lord's Prayer. So I pulled that to live in this bag right here. And I'm ready to go on that. And I am going to start that for my new Sabbath stitch Oh, whoops. I better put this back in the bag or I'll wonder what happened to it. And I'm going to really push and get this done. I'm really enjoying it. So when I say push, I'm just like, I can't wait to stitch it. I have a little bit freer time on Sundays now than I have had, now that summer's kind of coming to an end. And so I'm sure that I will be able to get that finished and going. So here is the Lord's Prayer. I'll make sure I don't show any chart. And I'm going to stitch on the called for 40 count affogato, and that's by Fibers on a Whim, and it's by Lila's Studio. I love this stitch. A lot of you said that you wanted to stitch with me, and so I've decided that I'm gonna start this October 1st. Okay, so that gives me this month to finish the Consider the Lilies. And I am also stitching with all of the called for silks. They're the Veriswal 103s. Okay, so I've got those living in here. And I think they're gonna really look beautiful on the called for. I just loved everything about it, loved all the colors. You know me, I'm always trying to change my greens and reds, but these are definitely red enough for me, and love the greens. And so I'm going to use all the called for and the called for 40 count. Now, most of the time I use 36 count, and when I use 36 count, I always stitch with one thread over two. But I decided to use the called for because this is the first time that I'm using the 103s, and from all I've heard is that it's a thinner silk, just a little bit thinner silk, and so that's why I'm going to stitch on the 40 count, because I'm thinking I would like that coverage better, because I love the 36 count coverage, but I'm thinking since this is a little bit thinner, I need to go with a little bit higher count, and so that's what I'm going to do there. So that's going to be October 1st, and so I would love to do a SAL. Let me add that there. And so we'll just use the hashtag Sabbath Stitch SAL, and excuse me, Sabbath Stitch, add the SAL to the Lord's Prayer. Okay. So those are the hashtags I'm going to be using. Sabbath Stitch, which I already use for all my other Sabbath stitches. And so that'll be October 1st. And so I hope that you'll join me in this beautiful stitch by Lila's Studio. I just love this. I loved it from the first second I saw it, and you know, when it was just first released. So I'm excited about that, and that even gives me more motivation to finish, you know, the Sabbath stitch that I'm working on now, which is Consider the Lilies. But so speaking of Sabbath stitches, let's put those over there, sis. I thought I would show you my very first Sabbath stitch that I did, and that's right here. I had Mr. Honey take it off my sampler wall here, and this is the very first one that I did and called it a, you know, Sabbath stitch, and only did it on Sundays. I talked about that. Can you see the whole thing in there?
Most of it, yeah.
You need me to move up, down, sideways?
That's good. Right there.
Okay. So this is All Creatures Great and Small by Barbara Anna Designs, and I stitched this on 36 count Chamomile Tea by R&R, and I used the anchor floss that was called for, but I switched the reds and greens for DMC instead of anchor. And if you want to know those, I know I've given you those conversions and those colors before on my floss tubes, but I finished this one. I started it in 2018 and I finished it in 2019. And then as soon as I finished this one, I moved on to my next Sabbath stitch. I'm going to trade you. Well, let me put it over here. And that was the one that I finished last year. There's no way we're going to see this whole thing. but I've shown it to you before. And so this is A Savior's Praise by the Kitten Stitcher, or Shakespeare's Peddler. And, you know, I've told you all about this. And so this was my next Sabbath stitch, and I only worked on this strictly on Sundays until I finished it. And then I went on to Consider the Lilies, which is what I'm doing now. And then I'll do the Lord's Prayer. But I thought it might be kind of fun to bring these in and show you. Do I need to move this up or sideways? I mean, I've showed you this a million times. It's just so big, it's hard to get in. But here, I'll just set this on top of there very carefully. And give them back to you, sis. And then let's talk about the one that did win. I'll pull these bags in. We'll talk about that too. The one that did win, and that's living in this bag right here. Let me put the chart away so you don't reveal any of the chart. That's living in this bag, which is a vintage quilt with a double wedding ring. And the reason I decided to have it live in this bag is because Never Let You Go won by a ton, the votes. And a lot of you said that the reason that you wanted me to do this is because you could tell that I was excited about this one, because I was going to do this for a wedding sampler for my parents. Because this just looks like my parents. This just looks like a sampler. They live in a red brick house. I grew up in a red brick house. They still live in the home that I grew up in on the farm, and just all of the animals and just everything about it. And so I'm going to keep everything exactly the same, but I'm going to take out the two angels and put their initials or their names, whatever I can fit, and then their wedding date right here. Okay? And so I really would love for you guys to join me in this if you'd like to. And it's Never Let You Go by Heartstring Samplery. And I'm going to be starting that on September 17th. And I'm going to use the hashtag Never Let You Go SAL. I'm stitching it on 36 count vintage by Number 12 Stitch Company. Okay, I love that. I'm also, this is in my bag because I've got, this is from a vintage quilt, and that is a covered notebook. And with my fun little wood pencil here, because I'm going to keep notes, because you've seen in my library cards, I do fold up notes after I'm finished stitching and put behind there. And so I'm just going to talk about my parents a little bit, maybe a few memories, just talk about, I'm going to ask my parents about their wedding day, actually, and what their memories are of their wedding day, and, you know, just the preparations, maybe ask Mom about her dress, and, you know, things like that. And, write it down and put in the little pocket for when it goes on the back. So I'm keeping this in there. The threads I'm using, I've pulled everything called for, but I don't know what I'm going to be switching out or not. But everything called for, it looks pretty dang good. So on this fabric, and so this is pomegranate, which I use quite a bit, wood rose. So that's everything that's called for. And so once I start stitching on something, if it doesn't show up, then I may have to change a color, but I think everything's going to be just fine. So, but of course I'll keep you updated as we go if I've switched anything. But, you know, depending on your fabric, your linen that you're using, you may have to switch something that I don't have to. And so, but, you know, I'll just keep you updated on that. So I'm excited to start that September 17th and Never Let You Go. And thank you so much for voting. That was so fun. I really loved that interaction when I asked you to, you know, help me to decide what to do next, because I think we all get that way. We get so many projects that we want to do, and we just have to have a reason to just start, you know, some of those ones that we've had kitted for a while and get them going. And so thanks for that. That's what I'll be doing on that one. And hope you'll stitch with me. So there's that one, and that's about that. contest, or whatever I don't know if it was a contest, but just voting. And then I've got a couple of other stitches here that I wanted to show you and talk to you about, because speaking of Christy, when I talked about her earlier, I'm going camping with Christy here as soon as Garden of Quilts is over that week that I'm teaching at. Next week, then I'll be going camping with Christy, and so we have some starts planned and prepared and ready to go, and so I thought I would show you what we're doing. And so this first one is living in this bag that's not out yet. This is my autumn bag, and it's a vinyl bag, and it's really fun because it could just be wiped off or whatever, but it's got one of my blocks from my quilt that I've had printed on it, and then I've got my little one of my hometown charms on here, which is the sheep, and of course the little Cassidy's keychain that she made for me. And so Christy, when I went and visited her in July, this is what she had for me there. She had purchased this chart for me, and she knew I would want to stitch it with her. I mean, we know each other so well, and she's such a fun stitching buddy. We know what we love to stitch, a lot of the same things, and when time allows. And so she bought this Pumpkin Season by Exemplar from the Heart, and I am not sure if it's available anymore or not, but she said she had it in her stash for a long time. I believe that's what she said, and so she wanted me to stitch it with her, and so she found another chart and bought it for me. So I don't know if there's still maybe some charts available out there or what. I'm not really sure on that, but I have chosen my fabric Milk and Honey by Fiber on a Whim. It's 36 count, and then I've got all of the called for. This is another one of my vinyl bags. This is from the Prairie collection when I did that. And so look at all of these. Look at all these silks. Okay, these are the NPI silks. And so that's what I've got going on for this. So I'm going to be starting that with Christy. So I wanted to show you that. Get all this put back in the bags. And then this other one is living in one of my zippy bag panel bags, and this was designed with my Autumn Love collection that I did, and I put, this is from my Bee Dots charm right here. And what I've got in here is, you know how much I love Not Forgotten Farm. So I've had this book of Lori's for a long time, and I think I'll look at the date. It's been out for quite a while. And, but what I wanted to do in this one, so this is by Lori and Autumn at Not Forgotten Farm. I assume it's still available because I wanted to stitch something out of here. So what did I do? Of course, I got online to see if I could find one for Christy because I didn't know if she had it or not. So I bought it for her and added it to her birthday gift that I sent to her. And I mean, everything in here is so fun, but let me show you what I want to do is, and that Christy and I are going to start. Let me fold this back so you can't see the chart, but it's called Turkey Trot. Okay, and it's got the salt box house and then room for your initials and some cute pinwheel flowers and planters and 2 turkeys. And so that's what I want to do. There's really a lot of fun things in here. And so I'm going to be using Hazelwood and 36 count by Fiber on a Whim. And I'm going to be using all of the called for DMC floss. Okay, so I have them all prepared and ready to go right here. Let's see. And I think everything's going to show up really nicely on this linen. And I think it's going to be really fun just to make a cute little pillow for fall. I always want to stitch something in the fall with a turkey in it, and so this is a fun little, this is going to be a fun little stitch. Okay, so I think I've shown you my starts, my whips that I've worked on over the last couple of months, and I want to show you one more time all the rest of the things that I prepared and pressed since the last Flosstube to take to the framers. And then I'm going to talk about the giveaway. And so this one I have ready to go to the framers. This is Honey and Wool Farm by Teresa Kogut. And I'm going to put that on my bee wall. And this one I'm taking to the framers for Christmas. I want to put that on an easel. And of course, this is Baby It's Cold Outside. And this is the stitch that won when I asked you to vote for which Christmas stitch I should do next. So I did that one. Love it. One I've always wanted to do. Thank you guys for voting, because again, it just helps me to just say, okay, I'm going to start that one that I've been going to do forever. This one I'm taking to put on my sampler wall. This is the Maker and Mender. And I don't know, I might put it here in my sewing room too, because this is where I do most of my making and mending. And then I've got, of course, the Humming of the Bees that I've shown you, and that's going on my bee wall. And so those are the things. The other, let's see, what is there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have these 4 ready to go to the framers. And those other 3 finishes that I showed you, I don't know, I'm going to have to probably take these at a separate time too, because are you like me when you go to the framer? Like you just can't make all those decisions, right? At the same time, I want to be able to just concentrate on each one. And so that's what I'm going to be taking to the framers. Let me look on my list before we talk about the giveaway to make sure I didn't leave anything out. Let's put those over there, talk to you about my starts and the SALs that I have going on. Okay, all right, I will be right back, grab my giveaway stuff to tell you about, and see you back in a bit. Okay, so let me talk about the giveaway. First of all, every once in a while I want to do a giveaway, and you guys have shown me so much love in all the comments and everything on Flosstube that I thought it would be really fun to do kind of a different giveaway. And you know, so I've shown you my bags all the time, and a lot of them I make, a lot of them Christy makes, and other people, and you know, I just love cute bags. So, and I like them to, all my projects, to live in a fun variety of bags. But I also like to put my flowers on there and decorate them with my flowers and my charms. Now, and my Cassidy's keychains. And when I say mine, you know, Cassidy made them for me, but they're mine. But this is Cassidy's keychain that she did a tutorial for. And then I always put a charm, usually on my zippers. And most of the time I like to add a flower. Now I've done the tutorial for these flowers. I use these on my featherweight sewing machines to keep my thread on, but I also like to use these flowers for my bags. And I did that tutorial on how to crochet these flowers the same time Cassidy did the tutorial for her keychain. So that's here on my channel if you want to look for that. And what I do for these flowers is I use the covered buttons. And so I've shown you this tutorial on how I cover my buttons many times before, okay? So I'll just grab like a covered button for the center, and I will use these pins, which are quilter's pins, so they have that little curve in there. And the buttons have a little shank on the back. Can you see that side view? They have a little shank on the back, so you can just, you don't have to sew anything together. You literally just pick up a flower, put the covered button inside of it. These, I haven't woven these threads in the back yet, but you just set a covered button behind it and then put the pin through that shank, and then I just unzip the bag and pin it from inside the bag. Okay. So what I'm going to be doing is, kind of what I have been doing is crocheting even more and more flowers. But this is kind of what they look like on the back. A lot of times I'll just pick a spot and put them there, right? This one I put up a little bit higher. And, you know, I think that one looks fun. And I just like to sit down and cover a bunch of buttons at different times so that I have a good variety. This one I just pulled in to show you that I pulled in from the top. This is my Anne Ufendale bag. And this is from Hands Across the Sea Samplers, and I haven't worked on this for a few months, so I haven't shown my progress, but I don't know. Can I show you a whip without ironing it? I've never done that before. But this is what it looks like in my bag and how far I've gotten on it. Okay. Cassidy's telling me I need to come forward. How's that? Okay. Let's pretend iron. That's what I have done on that. This is another one that I'm doing with Christy. Isn't it fun to have stitchy friends? And, you know, we're quilty friends and crochet friends and all that kind of stuff too. But I just pulled this one in here to show you, you know, that you can put them anywhere on your bag. But what I'm doing for the giveaway, I mean, you know, let's get down to it, Lori. Let's start talking about it. Is I have been crocheting continually flowers. I always do. See, I have these in a jar of ones that I've done in the past that I just pull from all the time so that I can pull from them. And then I've been replenishing colors, but I also got 8 new colors of yarn. And so I've been doing flowers in those colors. This is my bowl that I have to go through and just weave the ends in the bag. You know, that'll probably take me an hour to do this whole, you know, this whole entire bowl here. These are already woven. They don't go into a jar until they're already woven behind, and then I can use them for my sewing machines and for my bags. But I'm going to give away one of every color to one person. So I had 32 colors of yarn before I brought this chart in to show you. So I had 32 colors of my chunky thread yarn. This is 100% cotton yarn. This is yarn that I've been doing through Riley Blake for several years, and I just have 8 new colors, and so I've been crocheting like crazy, adding some flowers and some other things too. But now I have 40 total, because 32 plus 8 is 40, if my math is correct. And so that means one person will get 40 flowers. I will send them 40 flowers. Not the covered button centers. You can just put old buttons, or you can cover your own buttons, or whatever you want to do. You can use them for your crochet bags, or your cross stitch bags, or your quilting bags, or your sewing machine, or whatever you want to do. But so one of the things that I've been doing is I did a bunch of granny squares with all of the new colors plus other ones. It's kind of like it's not really fall, but sort of fallish. And what I'm going to do with that, I'm just crocheting the granny squares all in one color, and I will be doing a tutorial on that very soon. Now that my kind of summer vacation is over, I can get back to my heavy filming schedule. And what I'm doing is I'm doing these in chamomile, which is this new color here. I'm doing a flower, and I'm going to put a covered button, probably all with the same fabric. And put a covered button, I'm thinking like in my raisin color, in the center of all those. And so I've done 16 so far, because that's what I'm going to put on the front of a pillow. Let me push this a little bit farther in. So I'm just going to give you a quick view of what I'm doing here. I don't know if this is the order I'm going to put them in or not. I'm just kind of laying them out. But I've only got 3 of these crocheted so far. But I'm going to have that and in the center of each one of them. And I'll just sew it on with yarn, with my yarn needles. But let me dump out some of these and see if I can find something in a raisin color that I haven't used before. Or maybe I could even just do the same gingham in all of the raisin color. But this is raisin. That's not gingham. But I'll just probably pull a fat quarter and do a bunch of those. But anyway, I mean, I realize this is Flosstube, so you don't really need to know about a crochet pillow, but I just wanted to talk to you about the flowers because, you know, I use quilting in my cross stitch for the bags. I use my crochet in, you know, cross stitch. All of my crafts that I do kind of go in one to another, and I know that a lot of you are the same as well. And so I just wanted to show you that. So what I have going there and tell you about this upcoming tutorial that I have. And so what I want you to do to enter the giveaway of one each of the 40 flowers is, of course, be subscribing to my channel and leave me a comment. And instead of asking you to vote for my next stitch, maybe you can tell me what your favorite finish was of mine, one of your favorite finishes, or something that you know, liked about this Flosstube episode, something like that. But leave me a comment and tell me in the comment, please don't say the word giveaway, but just tell me in the comment that, yes, you would love my flowers or something like that, one each of my flowers, so I know that you are entering the giveaway and not just leaving a comment. And you know, if you're someone who are interested in these flowers. So I just think that would really be fun. And I hope that you will leave me a comment and enter. And yes, it's for anywhere. It's not just in the US. I'll ship them wherever I need to. And so just leave me a comment and have fun stitching. And I will be back hopefully in a couple of months, or maybe even 1 month, with some fall stitching and show you my progress on my fall stitching and maybe a few of my starts. And thank you so much for all your support, and I will chat with you later.